It has been over a year since I wanted to have a listen to this 6L6 push-pull tube amp. Finally got it. It has been in my system for about a little more than 2 months now, and I think I'm ready to give my opinion on it. It has a very minimalistic, clean looking design. The feel of the knobs are pretty solid. The chassis have very clean, sharp lines. A little pointy around the edges. The circuitry consists of, well, a bit of a mixture between point-to-point wiring and PCB boards. I mean, obviously I prefer all tube amps to be point-to-point wiring, but it is what it is. You know, the sound of this amp makes up for it, which I will get into in a moment. The binding post, however, is a bit of a letdown. It's just a cheap plastic binding post. You know, I'm sure Bruno can do better in the future. Anyways, okay. Now let's get to the core of this amp. How does it sound? As this is my first YouTube review, I want to clarify that I don't like reviews that are just describing sound of gear without providing a proper comparison to another gear. If someone says something sounds neutral or bright, thin, or whatever, it's gonna be very subjective and vague. We don't know where they're coming from. Like, the reviewer might have a preference towards a very bright sounding gear, and when that person reviews a bright gear, it might not be bright enough for him, so he might describe it as being dark, which will not be the case for most people. So for this review, I'm going to compare the Bruno 6L6 integrated to 5 different amps I had a chance to listen in my system this year. It is not going to be totally fair comparison since not all of them are integrated. Like, some are power amps which were hooked up to my reference. My current reference preamp is the Supertech Shanine. This is the power supply with a rectifier tube. And yeah, so this is a pretty decent tube preamp. Okay, so the first comparison would be to my Firstwatt SIT3 and Supertech combo. So compared to my Firstwatt and Supertech, the Bruno, okay, let's start from the bottom end. The Bruno goes down deeper, and it's got better control of the bass region. Clear and defined bass, whereas the Firstwatt has more of a bloomy, wonky bass with decent quantity, like in the mid bass region, but overall Bruno wins hands down. Soundstage wise, both are quite wide. Same level of width, but Bruno definitely has more depth in the stage. The Firstwatt sounds somewhat hazy and softer compared to Bruno. It's got more, so the Firstwatt got more decay, whereas Bruno has better imaging. Firstwatt has slightly bigger image size. Bruno, I'll say, okay, Bruno and Firstwatt, they are far from sounding thin, like not at all. But Bruno got like girth to it. It has that manly macho grip. They both are yeah, they both sound somewhat thick and dark, but Bruno has thicker lines. It's very it's thicker. It's I wouldn't say it's darker, but it's got more gravitas to it. Whereas Firstwatt has somewhat of a hazier lines, like a very wide brush. When it's painting an image, it's got a wide brush. So that means Bruno has better details, even in the highs, yet still managed to sound very warm. And the Firstwatt sounds slightly, just slightly more forward. Now, move on to my previous amp, which is linemagnetic 518. This is a 845 single-ended tube amp. It's the soundstage of this amp was incredible. It's just so wide, so tall. Everything just pops out. It just grabs your attention. Was you know, being very punchy dynamics. Needless to say, linemagnetic beats Bruno in these departments, but this is a big but. Linemagnetic sounds much brighter and thin compared to the Bruno. And that makes me hard to listen to some records. Like, although 518 goes down deep in the bass, it has less meat to the bones, I'll say. The bass in Bruno just sounds more natural, with more decay and sweetness, more quantity in the mid bass region. Bruno definitely sounds darker compared to the linemagnetic 518. Bruno makes most recordings just a pure joy to listen to. Like, whereas 518 is just is kind of a hit or miss on poorly recorded materials. So for a long listening session, Bruno is the way to go. It's an amp for music lovers, which I totally agree with JC Yagi. I could make another video comparing the Bruno 606 to my other previous amps, which I had here. 300B Sun Audio, Leben 600 CS, and AVAC KD120. So if there is a request, comment down below. I'll compare the other three to this amp. So, yep, that's it. I'm out.